Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? The president claims he can create jobs if the Congress will just appropriate another $500 billion and let him spend it as he pleases. Tonight, more of the same from big government. 4 days after he described it to the nation and to the Congress, 30 days after he says he conceived it in his own mind, and 2.5 years after he entered the White House, President Obama finally sent over to Congress his plans for getting the country back to work. This comes after President Bush's $1 trillion spent in stimulus and TARP, and after President Obama's own $4 trillion in stimulus spending. This is after gasoline and food and cotton clothing have all increased in cost by 25% since January 2009. And this is after unemployment has increased from 6% to 9.1% in just 3 years. This is now 3 years after the housing bubble burst and the onset of the Great Recession of 2008. Isn't it silly that the president would wait this long to bring about a plan that he says will get hardworking Americans back to work? Unfortunately, he is not only remiss by holding back his plan for this long, he is remiss for coming up with a plan like this in the first place. The essence of his plan calls for more government spending of money that the government doesn't have. The president thinks that by raising taxes on the rich, those who earn more than $250,000 a year. Tax increases his own Democrats rejected last year when they controlled both houses of Congress. And by spending that $500 billion repairing public property like bridges owned by the states and schools owned by cities and towns, and by hiring more public school teachers, somehow the federal government can stimulate economic activity and unemployment will go down. Look, the government can pay all the money it wants to build bridges that it doesn't own. It can even pay people to build the bridges and then destroy them and then build them again. It can give away all the money it wants to hire part-time public school teachers. But none of that will produce prosperity or jobs that will last beyond the congressional appropriations that will pay for them. Oh, it will employ the president's union friends and it will spread some wealth to the banks that he likes. But by definition, it cannot produce real prosperity. Real prosperity can only come about by risk takers. People who find a need and fill it. People who risk their own dollars and manage the risk. People who hire others to enhance their own wealth. People who are daring enough, creative enough, or rich enough to take these risks. America, this is basic economics 101. It is not rocket science. The government cannot create needs. It cannot create wealth. Its regulations attempt to alter needs, and they diminish wealth. Think about it. When the government takes money, either by taxation or by borrowing, it is removing that money from the private sector. That money is then no longer available for the risk takers to invest. Government then consumes that money through its bureaucracies and regulatory agencies. And then what remains gets distributed to the bridge builders and public school teachers, all of whom will be looking for work when the money runs out. If the same money had been invested by risk takers in projects that produce wealth, as opposed to those which merely consume it, the projects would sustain themselves and enhance prosperity, and there would be an economic demand for more jobs. Why doesn't the president understand this? I think our Harvard-educated lawyer president does understand this, but his big government ideology and penchant for class warfare get in the way of his understanding. He is so wedded to the concept of government planning the economy, so focused on trying to show a little blip of temporary good news before Election Day, so beholden to those who like him and hate the rich, that he simply overlooks free market principles that history has taught us are the only real route to prosperity. Come on, rich people are the risk takers, the investors, those who hire people to fill economic needs. Take money from them and there will be fewer jobs, not more. The only jobs the government creates are for bureaucrats who keep them for life, who have no competition and who produce nothing, and whose very existence keeps taxes high. The reality that the president is ignoring is that the best thing the government can do is get out of the way. Cut taxes, cut regulations, and unleash the engines of free enterprise. The president can ignore this reality all he wants, but he cannot, as Ayn Rand once said, ignore the consequences of reality. If he does that, he'll be out of a job in less than 2 years. From New York, defending freedom every night of the week. So long, America.